As I started off the beginning of the show, I said there are many mysteries in life. The Shroud of Turin, the pyramids, Roswell, New Mexico, Area 51. But here at BAI, one of the greatest mysteries is a character, or now we find out a host of characters who call into almost every show. They're more famous than a lot of the producers here at WBAI. And he tells people to go to Cuba and that we're commies. Radio Free Eireann has cracked the code, the Cuba code. And for the next hour and a half, we'll be speaking to the people who have been torturing BAI producers for 20 to 30 years. Started out his career in the 60s in his knickers out there in Williamsburg torturing Alec Bennett, and then he graduated over to Pacifica Radio. But where the story really starts, the current story, but if you happened last Saturday, but if you get last Sunday's Daily News, the headline by Joanna Malloy is "A Hero's Quest. Bravest barely survives 9/11 but lives to see America from sea to shining sea." The Irish Echo has the headline on page 3, 9/11 hero ready for the radio, talking about him coming up here to Radio Free Eireann here at WBAI. But if you go to Hackshot NYC, you'll get to see a little write-up and some photographs.
John, I just want to say last Saturday, throughout the show, there's a red button that keeps on lighting up, and it was lighting up throughout the show, and by the end I was like, let me pick this up. And usually I don't pick it up because usually it's like, oh, my premium, I didn't get my premium. And John usually bolts out of here to pay his parking, you know, type of thing. And I said, let me pick this up. So I picked up the button, and I hear Johnny saying, Johnny, Liza, tell John. And I said, you know, tell him yourself. And I handed John the phone. And so, I mean, it just blows me away that usually you don't pick these things up. And it just happened. We were running out the door, and I picked up this phone call, and the rest is history.
And what Paul Harvey says, and now the rest of the story. So I'm going to read from 2 write-ups that I have done. And BAI was graciously sent it out to all the producers. After the radio show on Saturday, I received a call from FDNY LT Girard Owens at WBAI, and he asked me to go with him on Tuesday, 9/11, to see the Statue of Liberty, the final stop of his quest to visit all 397 national parks and monuments. Listeners of Radio Free Eireann know Jared as Johnny from Greenpoint, a faithful 20-year caller to the show. A profile in New York Daily News this week introduced him to the rest of New York as one of the heroes of September 11, a firefighter who responded to the burning Twin Towers. Despite being seriously injured, Girard saved lives, and after being treated, went back to work on the pile. That left him with a continued nightmares of the horrors he witnessed, and more recently a diagnosis of basal cell sarcosia. Listen, I can't pronounce it, but you know it's not good. And stage 4 lymphoma. This year, Girard will mark the anniversary of September 11th by a trip to the Statue of Liberty, the last and perhaps most personally significant of America's treasures. It is an honor and my privilege to accompany him, of which I did, and here's what happened that day. As the 11th anniversary of the attacks of September 11th loomed, I never thought I would mark it by being on the National Parks boat heading to the Statue of Liberty for a special ceremony with FDNY Lieutenant Girard Owens, who saved the last 2 survivors out of the World Trade Center. After recovering serious injuries he suffered as the towers fell, Lieutenant Owens embarked on a journey of visiting all 397 national parks. Although recently diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma, Lieutenant Owens had visited 396 parks, and the last remaining one, the Statue of Liberty. As Paul Harvey used to say, and now the rest of the story. For over 20 years at WBAI, I've been receiving postcards from around the world and national parks telling me to go to Cuba. It seems almost every time I would take a phone call during the show, someone would call in and say, "Go to Cuba, you commie." After many years, I learned that it was a fireman making the calls and sending the postcards, but I didn't know his name. I called him Johnny from Greenpoint, and he became a fixture on the show. Then on Saturday, after Radio Free Eireann ended, Eliza picked up the phone and she handed it to me, and it was the Go to Cuba guy asking me to go with him to the Statue of Liberty on 9/11. When I asked him why, he said, "Read tomorrow's New York Daily News." So I took down his number and called him the next day after reading the Daily News article. We spoke for about an hour, and we talked about people that we both knew, and arranged to meet at his apartment and go with him and his family to the ceremony. My wife, aware of some of the extreme lengths that Johnny from Greenpoint went to send me messages of go to Cuba, urged me to be cautious and kiss me goodbye like I was going away forever. Her concern was totally unfounded. When we met, we hugged like old friends, and we seemed to have become. It was as almost we grew up together. He showed me photos of his travels, and he gave me a flag from North Korea and a postcard with the image of Che Guevara from Argentina. I gave him Brian Moore O'Briel's drawings of the commemoration of 9/11. And then off we went to catch the national boat that was taking his family and friends to the Statue of Liberty. Sailing out to the statue, I wonder what my mother and father were thinking when they were going past the Statue of Liberty on the immigrant ship from Ireland. Could they ever have imagined that one of their sons would one day be on the National Park boat heading to the statue for a ceremony honoring a hero firefighter? On the island, we were met by David Luxinger, the park superintendent of the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, to get the final stamp for Lieutenant Owens' National Park book. After the stamp was put into his book, everyone took pictures with Lieutenant Owens at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. When it came my turn, Joanna Malloy from the New York Daily News yelled at me, quote, "John, how does it feel to be with Lieutenant Owens with your politics?" I pointed out that I was standing to the left of Lady Liberty, and that Jerry was standing to the right of her, and that the island was big enough for the both sides of our politics. As we headed back to the tower, or back to the lower Manhattan on the boat, I made arrangements to have Jerry come on WBAI studio on Saturday for a 2-hour special about his life, to talk about his calling WBAI all these years. It will give a chance to our BAI listeners to tell him where to go, maybe. So Jerry told me that he's very sick from working down at the Twin Towers, and he didn't want listeners 2 years from now saying, "Hey, where did that go to Cuba guy go?" As Cindy Adams would say, only in New York. So after 20 years in calls, not to mention postcards from most national parks and from countries around the world, it's been invited to Radio Free Eireann. And what I'm going to play now is a clip. If you go to the New York Daily News site, this is the sound from the video that the Daily News did at the Statue of Liberty.
We're here today with Lieutenant Jerry Owens, retired firefighter.
Yeah, it's just when you guys are both speaking.
And one of the two people that
no, when we take phone calls, you don't need them right now.
Visited every national park. There are 397 national parks, and the fact that he would choose the Statue of Liberty on 9/11 for his last stamp is, such an honor for us, and we're glad to have him here and glad to have his family here too.
We actually didn't even know that he was embarking on it. He just kept traveling and traveling and didn't stop.
I don't really remember this because I was very young, but I was really the first person that stamped it, so he wanted me to be last. And then we had one of me, my brother and I, and my dad all stamped the last one as a family, and it was perfect.
I was a fireman, and after 9/11, I retired within a year. And I said, I think I'm going to try to see every national park. And I really thought I wasn't going to be able to do it. I was going to die with 1 or 2 left. Right now, it feels like a dream. I don't believe I did it.
This is Jerry Owens, New York firefighter, hero from 9/11. And he's visited every national park in the country. This is the last one he's getting a stamp for.
The more traveling I do, the more I love New York, appreciate it here. When you come back, you come back to New York and you fly over and you see the Statue of Liberty, you know you're home. And you feel great to be home.
And welcome back to Radio Free Eireann, and with us in the studio, 2 retired firemen, Johnny Sexton from Sunnyside and Jerry Owens. Now, Jerry, as I say, I want to go back to the beginning. I guess from your grandparents. Where were they from in Ireland, and where did they immigrate to?
I'm talking about my mother's side. I really don't know my father's history, but my mother's side, they're from Belfast. And my grandfather worked in the shipyards in Liverpool, and helped build the Titanic. And I believe a year or two, like 1913, 1914, they came to Montreal, Canada. And they lived there for almost 20 years, I believe. And then they made a decision. They wanted to come down to America. And from family history, connections, they told me they had two places, New York or Cleveland. Thank God they picked New York. Because I went to Cleveland with my daughter a couple of weeks ago, and I told my daughter, I can't believe my family wanted to live here. But they made a good choice by coming to New York, and I believe my mother was about 5 or 6, or maybe 7 years old when she came to America. And the happiest day of my mother's life was the day she became an American citizen. There's a picture of her becoming an American citizen, and that's what she told me. That was her happiest day in her life, that day.
And they came to Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Greenpoint, Williamsburg, yes.
Right. I guess right by McCarran Park, and just
right.
breaks up the two neighborhoods there. Now, what was your childhood like? How many in the family?
I had 4 brothers and 1 sister, and we lived on Diamond Street when I was growing up. And we went to St. Anthony's School, and it was fun back then. There were a number of kids on the block, and we had a lot of fun. And I remember family picnics and family. We used to go to Thanksgiving to my aunt's house out in Jamesburg, New Jersey. And I remember my aunts, they were old, like in their 60s at the time, and I'm like 10 years old. They asked, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, and everyone's saying, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. And they asked me what I want to be, and I told them, well, I don't know, you know. And that Sunday, I remember reading a newspaper right before we went to church, and I told my mother, oh, this is what I want to be. It was a fireman, a baby, a picture.
And how old were you when you took the test to get on the job?
John, how old were you? 21?
Yeah, we were about 21. Yeah, about 78. Yeah, 78 was the written test, so we would be 50, but 22, yeah.
So what went wrong with your brother Roger that he went on to the NYPD? How come he didn't take the fire department test?
Failing.
Family secrets come out here.
Yeah, he failed the test.
Now, you sort of get the background. You've been on the... How long were you on the job?
I was on a job a little less than 24 years.
And when I was talking to you, you were saying, even though you worked 9/11, you had seen so many horrible scenes before that. Maybe can you talk just about some of like the suicides you went, like, not the... Like everyone keeps thinking about 9/11, but there are so many horrible stories that you were involved with in your life.
Well, the most horrible story was when I got admitted to the burn center, because I had 3rd-degree burns on my back. That was terrible.
Now, how did that happen?
Well, it was a fire on Avenue C in East 9th Street, and we rolled up with first due engine, and we saw a civilian on a fire escape. And we went to get him out, and we put the ladder up. We went up to get it, and an 11 truck came up with their ladder. The civilian jumped on the truck on the ladder. He came down, but we were up there, and the thing, it was a flashover, and it just went right over us. And I didn't really feel anything. I felt the heat. But like an hour later, I started feeling some pain, and a few of us ended up in the burn center that night. I was in the hospital. How long, John?
A couple of months, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when something like that happens, do you think maybe I can get out in 3/4 now?
No, you never think that. I just wanted to get better. I had young children at the time.
And you would have qualified probably for that.
Well, John,
Without a doubt, yeah.
But I didn't even think about it. I was studying for captain. at the time, and I was having a lot of fun on the fire department, so why get out?
And what was the other story you told me about? That you went to the house and someone was dead, and then you left. And
Oh,
yeah.
we had an EMS run, and I would say the couple was in their mid-80s, early 90s the most, and a man came out and said, my wife, went in there. I said, I'm sorry, sir, your wife passed on overnight. And he didn't want to accept that, saying that she's sleeping, wake her up. So I called the PD. The PD rolled up with two female police officers, and I explained the situation, and they told them, and so we took up. And later that day, we got a call for the same apartment. Go up there, and he was dead. Committed suicide.
You just couldn't take that his wife was gone.
Yeah, couldn't take it, and just took up. It never bothered me until years later.
Yeah, I know. For you even to repeat that story all this time later, it still has to bother you.
Yeah, but
and even when we were driving here, why do you think that you were to blame? You were saying maybe I could have done something, but Jesus, that's a tough way to think about it.
Yeah, well, that's not the only one. We had a few of them suicides. We had one in Gramercy Park. That was terrible.
Right. And what was that? What happened
it was a homosexual couple and professional, and he jumped from the 35th floor.
Yeah.
And we went up there, and the guy was about 6'4", 240 pounds strong. He was by the terrace. And I told the guys discreetly, let's get him off the terrace and get him into the apartment, because we don't know what he's going to do. And then the police come up and put him in a straitjacket and took him to Bellevue. And I said, let the doctor say he's normal, not us. Because you never know what was going to happen. And we've been to this apartment a few times before for domestic violence and attempted suicide for these guys.
So then that brings us, I guess, to your 23rd year on the job on 9/11. Now, when you got the call for that day and the first plane goes into the tower, what were you thinking? I mean, I know what I was thinking looking at the paper on looking at CNN, that some tourist plane or one of these helicopters that went into it. What was the initial reaction?
That's what I thought. I thought it was a small seaplane that hit the tower. I really didn't pay any attention to it. And then looking at the Twin Towers, and they said, this is no small plane that hit. So we ended up going down there.
And what firehouse were you out of?
It was in 5 Engine on 14th Street.
14th, just off First Avenue?
I went there to get my gear and to go down.
So were you on duty?
No, I was going. Coming to work.
You were coming in
They
there?
were already out. And it's coming, and I forgot what, it might have been an overtime tour, I really don't remember. And I went down to I hitched a ride with an ambulance, and he couldn't go anymore, so I ended up walking, and right on Houston and Broadway was ESU 8 from the 90 precinct, and he picked me up and drove me down to the Trade Center. And he parked the vehicle between the two towers and church. And he gets out and takes his tool, and I looked at him, he looked at me. His name was Sergeant Rodney Gillis, and he went to the South Tower, and I went into the North Tower.
And what did you do in the North Tower?
Well, I reported to the command center, and then the chief told me to check the status of the elevators, and I did that, and went down to the basement, sub-basement, and try to, locate where the elevators are trapped, and I was working with a couple of guys and some civilians who work for the Port Authority, and that's basically it. And I went up there, and then next thing you know, I hear this tremendous sound.
And prior to that, you said there was nothing but chaos, noise, everything is going on, and now you didn't even know it, but now the tower's coming down on you.
Yeah, well, it was the South Tower. I was in the North Tower.
Oh, okay.
And the wind and the dust and just like choking. And I ended up landing in the stairwell. And I managed to make it up to the lobby.
And you were pretty seriously injured at this stage.
Well, you know, I didn't know I knew I got hurt, but I didn't know how bad I was. I really don't think I was that bad. I'm more injured now from the cancer than that.
Right.
And I came up and I saw a couple civilians in the stairwell, and pitch black, couldn't breathe. And I just told them to hold on, and I see a light flickering, and went over to the flickering light, picked it up, and there was another firefighter, and John Morabito, and he's the one who really got us out. Not me. It was him.
And you took a woman with you.
Yeah, well, no, we did. He did too. Yeah, yeah. And he's the one who got us out.
And then what happened when you got outside? Which way were you heading and what
Well,
happened?
we're in Vesey Street, and I remember John helping another person who was lying in, I don't know if she was lying in the building or outside the building, but I helped Daffy into the ambulance. Then I was going to go back into the North Tower, and I just felt the ground start like cracking. See it cracking, and then I heard this tremendous noise and the dust, and I ended up running towards the Hudson River.
And you even told me you knew when you were breathing it in that you were going to get sick.
Oh, I knew
on that day.
I knew it. John, I breathed in too much toxics. I knew it. I just knew I was going to get sick. And then when I first got diagnosed with cancer was December 2010. I had half my nose cut off. And then I got diagnosed with the stage 4 lymphoma in March of this year. And I only had a day or two of life left, according to the doctors of New York Hospital. I just couldn't believe it, that my life's going to end.
Yeah.
You know, but I knew I was going to get sick. I told everybody I'm going to be sick one day. I even told John here. And John has the same fear, too, that he's going to get sick.
Well, that brings John. Give us a little bit of your background. You're from Sunnyside, and you were on the job at the same time.
Yeah, I grew up in Jackson Heights, and then when I got out of the service, I moved over to Sunnyside. I've been there 35 years. And yeah, we got on. He got on about a year or two before I did. And I worked in Brooklyn 212. Jerry worked in 229, 146. And he got promoted a little quicker than I did. And that day I was working. I was a lieutenant. I was working in at the fire academy. I was teaching driver's aids. You guys, learn how to drive rigs. And I was going back. I was trying to set things up for the class. And I could see from where the spot was, I could see the plane go right into the tower. And my first reaction was, the guy must have had a heart attack or something,
Right.
You go in. And then the next thing I know, guys are running and say, come on, let's go, get your gear, we're going down to the, downtown. They didn't say terrorist attack, they just said we have to get going. There was no such thing as, we didn't know really what was going on, but it was just, I think it went to like a full 18 alarms or something, which is like the highest alarms you could go to, fire. And we would just got off, I don't even know where we were, because I'm not familiar with downtown here too much. And we were walking to the North Tower, and all of a sudden you saw people running, and they said, get the, out of here. And we ducked behind this fire truck, and that's when the North Tower came down. And I told a lot of people, I really from 10:30 to about 5 o'clock, my mind is kind of shut. I really can't remember too much. I just remember eating, we ate around 6 o'clock, like a bologna sandwich. That was like the first time we sat down, from that initial, from 10:30 to 6. But I can remember certain things, but I really, I don't want to go into it. It's kind of, it's a bad, I saw a lot of bad stuff, let's put it that way, it was a bad day.
And Jerry, you're still in touch with the woman that you helped out with your other...
Yeah, Daffy Carlisle's a sweetheart. She's a very good friend of ours now, and she's really sad about me being suffering from the lymphoma. She says she prays for me every day. So, and she's a very good person, you know, and I got the almost love and respect for her. So does John Morabito and John Sexton. Here we all, you know, wish her the best. One other thing about John is that when he was down in Ground Zero, one of the firemen says, you know, Jerry's in that building. Remember, John?
Yeah, yeah.
And he went in there looking for me, just about to go in to look for me. And I always appreciated that. And I know that's the type of firefighter John is. And one other side note, the sergeant who went into South Tower, Rodney Gills, he didn't make it. He died that day, and it was sad.
And it's all chance about what tower you went into.
Yeah.
And you could have chosen that tower, and he could have chosen the North Tower.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to that. And you're listening to Radio Free Eireann. We're going to be closing in on 2 o'clock. Dr. Michio Kaku was supposed to come on, but we're going to continue this discussion because there's a lot more to the story. And now I want to get into more about the WBAI angle on this. Now, for over 20 years, I've been receiving postcards, and every Saturday I would go to Eliza. Eliza, I said, I'm getting postcards from what they call themselves the Cuba boys. And these are the guys that would call us up anytime, or with Grandpa Al, and tell them to go to Cuba, you commie. And we could never figure out how did we get these postcards, because they had the stamp on it. And they came from everywhere, Zimbabwe, North Korea, China. And I said, this guy must know so many people. He knows travel agents. But the handwriting always looked the same. And I said, maybe he writes them out ahead of time, and then they bring them to these other countries, and that he mails it to it. And then I was getting postcards from Cuba, and then money from Cuba, like pesetas or pesos, and I'm there. So I could never figure it out until I read the article in the Daily News, and I found out that Jerry's a world traveler. But he has a group, a cabal. And I know Bob Fass is not going to like that term, that it's being hijacked. But what exactly are the Cuba boys, and how did this craziness of calling WBAI and calling all the shows and telling us to go to Cuba, how did this all start?
The first time I made a crank phone call was during the school strike, when they told you to stand by the radio back in 68, 69. You remember those days?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I was listening to Long John Neville. They told us to listen to that, and they'd give a number out, and I'd call up, and they said they didn't know what to say. Then Alex Bennett would come on around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would just harass him on his politics and his all his beliefs. I would challenge him, and I would tell him to drop dead, you nudist.
But here's what everyone is asking: is why? I mean, is there an answer to this? Because people say they read the article. I've talked to so many people. They go, these guys seem so normal. They're out saving lives, and then in their spare time, they're torturing BAI people and Alex Bennett and Long John Neville.
Well, I'll give you, John.
Okay.
One of the reasons is we used to call BAI, and we used to go back and forth with the
and from the firehouse, you guys.
Yeah, I used to call Bob Fast from the firehouse. They thought I was with the CIA because the alarm, you know, they would hear the messages, and Bob Fast thought I was, you know, with the CIA or FBI. And but one of the reasons was that we got tired that certain producers would not talk to us anymore. They kind of blacklisted us, and we kind of got tired of the so-called progressives, that they weren't so tolerant at the end of the day. And we got blacklisted by a couple of them, and we said, okay, if you're going to blacklist, we're going to tell you where to go. You're going to go to Cuba, one way. And they used to drive them crazy, and we just kept it. It's very simple.
And it is unbelievable that Monroe was your kindred spirit.
Oh, yeah.
He loved us.
He would call up defending you guys.
Oh, no, he loved us.
One of our best phone calls was Christmas morning.
Oh, Christmas morning.
Bernard.
Yeah, tell that story.
Monroe calls first. Bernard, poor Bernard is having a...
No, what Bernard said, this is Christmas morning. Yeah. Let's take phone calls from the listeners. Yeah. Now tell them the first 3 phone calls.
Was you the first one?
I think Monroe was first. No, I was first. Yeah, and then I think Monroe, and then you.
And then
he went crazy. He went absolutely crazy. He said, that's it. He slammed the phone down. He said, I don't want to talk to this anymore. He was absolutely crazy.
And do you get great joy out of this? So
well, it was fun. But the funny part was Esther Armand's like first day or second day on the job, and Bernard says, "Oh, you must have had this in London." He goes, "No, only in this station."
Yes, Sandy.
What about David Rothenberg? You guys have been talking to David for how many years?
We love David, but he's one of the guys that he thinks he's tolerant and progressive, but yet at the end of the day, he won't talk to us.
Yeah, but you know what it is? I'm going to say.
Sorry, what he keeps saying is, talk to me. Don't just say, go to Cuba.
No, you talk to him, Sam. He hangs up
on us all the time.
Oh, he hung up. We didn't hang up, David. You hung up.
Because, I mean, even with Grandpa Al Lewis and everyone, I mean, just sitting out there and you hear him screaming. Yeah, must have been the Cuba boys calling in again. And we just thought by having you up today and reading the article, I told you it was a privilege to meet your family and go out there. And I still can't get my head around you guys plotting almost like a wrestling tag team. If you were down, then he would call in. If he was down, then you would call in. And you're listening to all hours, because it could be at any time of the day or night, and you would hear one of you guys calling in. And I always remember there's some producers who thought they'd done a really great show, and they're so proud of themselves, and they make the rookie mistake and say, you know what, we'll take one more phone call. Not saying that I should have went out with that good phone call before, and sure enough, it's you or Jerry or Johnny calling in and torturing the producer. So you donate to BAI, you torture BAI, and also Gary Knoll, one of the producers here, has helped you. Tell us how Gary Knoll has helped you.
Well, when John and I got hurt on 9/11, John called up Gary Knoll and he explained the situation. He invited us up to his clinic, and they really took care of us. He was really concerned about our issues. He told us that you can get sick later on in your life. I said, I know that already, Gary. And we went up to Dr. Robbins, who also treated us with the utmost respect. And I went to Dr. Robbins almost a whole year getting the ozone therapy. But right after that, I started getting heart problems. And I went to the cardiologist, and the cardiologist told me this is 9/11 related, your heart, because you had perfect health before 9/11. Right after 9/11, my health started deteriorating.
Right.
I had a few surgeries, and then after the surgeries, just is getting worse and worse and worse. And every year we get medicals on the fire department, and I had my medical August of 2001, and it was perfect. Perfect blood pressure, perfect everything. There was no problems. The next year, different story. Different story. That's when my health started deteriorating. It was after the 9/11. And John told me. Now, we never fooled around with the drugs, alcohol, or
that's right. Neither one of you really drink and smoke.
No, and drugs, and we just, we kept healthy. We ate healthy and worked out. John and I have been working out together over almost 40 years now. And he's not in the best of health too either, Johnny. He's got respiratory problems. And here's a guy who never smoked in his life.
Now, one of the things about calling up WBAI, and I'm going to read the last postcard that I received from Jerry here. It's from Barcelona, Spain. Hello, John. Top of the morning to you. The Cuba boys back on the road again. We were listening to your show live and talk about the statue of your buddy Che. Go to Havana and you will see the statue of Che. The Cuba boys will pay for a statue of you and Grandpa Al Lewis and have it built next to Che. And all you have to do, and you and your commie buddies, is go down to Cuba. This is Barcelona, Spain is great. Have a great day. This is Johnny Greenpoint and the Cuba boys. Now, when I got this, I was going to say, if he's in Barcelona, how did he know we did a show about the statue that was going up in Galway about Che Guevara? Now, how did you know about the statue?
Well, I was listening to you online.
But even when you travel around the world.
We love your show. We love your show.
We called you from Havana. We called you from Cape Town, South Africa.
I think I called you from Ireland one time.
We called you from Gansu, China, Pyongyang, North Korea. We called you from these places.
Now, I know the audience has to be shaking their heads out there going, this has gone beyond crazy. It's so crazy. The New York Times is covering this story, this show today. It's going to be in the Metro section now on Monday. And what I want to do is now return the favor of our listeners here at WBAI and have the listeners call in and see what they thought about your calling in. Now they know that you've been calling in from around the world, that you've been listening. You know.
Well, before you do that,
okay,
John,
yeah.
I got a gift for you and Sandy, all right? Here you
Oh, Sandy, you can
Here you go. You want to go to Commie country? It is the Commie country. You can make a lot of money in your cab over there. I'm telling you the truth.
Well, I'm going to put this up with my North Korean flag that you brought back, and it's a patch. Now, I cannot read Korean, but what does this say? This is a tour you took.
Yeah, that's you. If you and Sandy or any BAI guy wants to go to North Korea, call that up. How I found out that Americans go to North Korea is I was listening to BAI, and they told you Americans could go to North Korea. I said, well, I'm going to go.
So, listening to BAI,
and the Cuba boys went over.
You go to Gary Noe, he tries to help you out. You hear about now you can travel to North Korea. You certainly do use BAI for information, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and also the FBI and the police department.
No, but
we
support.
How did you find out about BAI? Like, when did you start listening? You were 18-year-old?
Oh my God, probably back in 1970. My first call into BAI was Steve Post.
And you just were flipping the dial and just
yeah, I couldn't believe it, you know, because at that time Watergate was just getting into gear, and it was unbelievable. And me and him used to go back and forth. And then I used to talk to Lynn Samuels, and then she banned me.
Oh, yeah, she did. One of the producers that really hated us was Lenny Lopez. I mean, he really hated us.
And here's one of the radio ironies, and you were telling me that you really got sick was the week that Lynn Samuels died and Monroe died.
Yeah, and I thought I was going to die.
That would have been the trifecta. We couldn't have that. But what would we do here at BAI?
Oh, I know, because that was right after Christmas,
That's right.
That's
when
right.
Right around Christmas.
Oh, here's Sandy gift, John. Sandy, here you go.
Give now. What is that now?
Yeah,
explain the gift.
And here's some stamps here, John, from North Korea.
Is this a pin? It looks like the North Korean flag.
That is the North Korean flag.
Wow.
I mean, you know what? When you gave me the North Korean flag and handed it to me, and I asked you what it was, you said, it's the North Korean flag. As if I should have known that.
But you're a bunch of communists. Communists would know about that.
Now I actually have to tell you a secret. I am the commie on this show. And I,
we know. You don't have to tell us that. It's no secret.
But what is I hate Fidel.
Oh, we don't like him.
Because if I were a Cuban, I'd be locked up.
Without a doubt, Sandy.
Well, let me tell you something about Cuba. I know this station loves it and all that, but this is not a great place to live.
And you've been down there 50 times.
A bunch of times. I've been to 5 communist countries, and I guarantee you, anyone who hates America and thinks communism is the answer, you go over it. Don't go over there as a tourist. You go over there, you want to live there. And you would change your mind and be grateful that you're in this country and that you're in New York. New York. We don't know how lucky we have it in New York. I'm telling you the truth, John and Sandy. This is a great place. But these countries here, you just cannot live in them. We got treated with respect because we were tourists. I went to the old Soviet Union about 4 or 5 times during those days, and they loved us over there. Absolutely.
And that's the one thing about you. You have traveled the world. You've been to about, what, 80 countries?
About 80, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere that you would like to go that you haven't been?
Yes, there's 10 countries. I don't think I'm going to make it, Liza, but the next country I want to go to is Tahiti. I want to go there. And I want to go to Indonesia, East Timor, Singapore. I love Singapore. Me and John love Singapore. They should bring the laws of Singapore here. This would be.
I like to chew gum, all right? I know they got pretty strict laws out of Singapore.
We like the caning part.
Johnny, this is Johnny from Greenpoint. Go back to Cuba, Johnny, but his real name is Jerry. What country did you like the best? What travels did you like the best?
In terms of what? In terms of food, in terms of the people, in terms of beauty. I love the South Pacific Islands too. It's absolutely beautiful, like Fiji and Samoa and New Zealand and the Cook Islands and Australia. Yeah, I've been there. I've been to Australia 5 times, and it's just absolutely beautiful. I love Thailand. Thailand's a very beautiful country. The beaches, the northern part of Brazil is gorgeous. in near Bonita Springs, the Patno, just absolutely beautiful. The southern part of Brazil is beautiful. The southern part of Argentina and Chile is just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. In matter of fact, that was my last trip that I took before I got sick. I climbed one of the mountains on the border of Argentina and Chile. It was 3,500 meters. Whatever that is, John.
It's a long walk.
Yeah. I went up there and ended up getting altitude sickness, and I came back, and then that's when I started feeling weak, and I really thought it was a side effect of altitude sickness, my illness, but it was going on.
Let's go right back to BAI for a minute.
Yeah.
And what you guys may not know, it took us a long time to figure out there was more than one go to Cuba guy.
Oh, there was a few of us, Andy.
Yeah, tell us about that. Who are the other go to Cuba boys?
Well, one was Andy. He got killed on 9/11. John, can you explain about Andy?
Andy was he lived in Greenpoint. He was a long-time resident, and he was a lieutenant. He worked by the firehouse by the St. Francis Church on 31st Street there.
Oh, where Michael Judge.
The father.
And, we tried to turn him on to BAI, and he was a real stone cold conservative, and he said,
"Unlike you guys." But
no. And he just said, I can't stand these guys. I can't stand them. And he used to make a few phone calls once in a while. But me and Jerry were mostly the primary. We were the instigators, most of us.
Yeah, but we have a bunch of them that they're all police and firemen, the Cuba boys, and we go all over the world. Like I told you, I know you don't believe it, but the postcards the proof. There were 2 Cuba boys there during the tsunami in Japan. And I got there the next day, and I sent you a card saying, you got to give these guys a shout out.
No, I know. Well, first of all, I couldn't believe that here you are in Japan, and there's a tsunami and an earthquake at the top. Never mind, you were at 9/11, and disasters are following you.
Oh, I got that postcard.
I know.
And I showed it to him. He said, no, this can't happen. This can't be real. I don't know what they're doing, but it can't be real.
Look at Sandy's face. It's true, we went there. We were going over there to Japan. Like I told you, John, my daughter told you this story. I went to Japan for one day.
Right.
I went there to get a massage.
No,
I know. He showed me the passport and how he flew direct to Tokyo, got a massage, and came back to New York.
Yeah.
All right, listen, I can't take any more of this. I want to let the listeners, because we only have 45 minutes left, so everyone put on your helmet. Some people call it, and one more thing. Somebody is writing a movie about your life. Now, I don't want to give away the title just yet, but describe who's writing it and what the movie's about.
Well, it's in the infancy stages. It's Pat. You met her there the day at the statue.
Right. Pat Hackett.
Yeah,
right.
And she has history in writing. She writes...
she wrote the Andy Warhol diaries.
Yeah.
Right.
She's been asking some questions, and she's thinking of writing a movie about it. I said, you gotta be joking. Because no, it's gonna be a funny movie. Because you're a funny guy, Ed. He said,
but I want to tell our audience, what is the working title of the movie?
WBAI, you're on the air.
Now, that there would be a movie to go to. WBAI, you're on the air. Because how many times have you heard that? Oh my God.
We love to hear those words.
John, I really think that either me, Johnny Greenpoint, or Monroe has got to hold the record of being hung up most on Bob.
Oh, no, on Bob Fast?
No, any show.
Oh, any show, right. No, that would be true. The number here is 212-209-2900. What do you think of these 2 guys, the Cuba boys, who for decades have been calling here to WBAI, telling everyone to go to Cuba, and telling everybody they're communists while we're living here in New York City.
And also, I think you called the truce on the show a couple months back. Is that true?
Yeah, I called that. That was me. I called the truce that time because Jerry was sick and Monroe had passed on, and I just said,
Big Bernie, though.
Big Bernie, because I really like Bernie, and and I just said, you know what, it's time to.
Liza, I was in a hospital bed with a day of life left, they're telling me, and I'm breaking John's balls.
It never ends.
We tend to send people to the hospital.
If only the switchboard would light up like this when we're looking for funds, which we will be in October. And the number here is 212-209-2900. 2900. Yeah, Jerry, we're doing that. I know you think you're good and everything, but to hear the people yelling from Brooklyn and Queens.
209-2900.
Yes,
Listen, I ran 6 miles, I took my vitamins, I went to church, lit a candle, bring it on.
I want everyone to keep it short. What do you think? And could you ever believe this story and how it played out from last Saturday? BAI, you're on the air. Yes, you're on the air. I'll let you know after your call. Go ahead. You got the two.
Like finding out who Deep Throat was. This is such an irony, because you guys have been all over the world, and when I listen to some of your comments when you call up shows and say, go back to Cuba, like these guys must be, you know, stuck in a basement somewhere. And to hear that you guys have been all over the world, it's shock. I was with my son one day, and we were listening to On the Count, and they went into this discussion about, you know, incarceration and things like that. And I had my son listening. And one of you guys called up and said, you know, go back to Cuba. And then the guys on the count, they were like, yeah, we'll figure out who you guys were. And my son was very, very nervous because, Dad, you said, don't find out who these guys are. You know, and I said, nah, don't worry. These are the guys that just call up the show. It's such a, I'm sitting here in total shock.
It's great to talk to you.
Kevin, where do you hear this?
Let me just say, when Johnny and Jerry walked in, Eddie and Big Rob were sitting outside, and I had told them these guys were coming up, and they were like, ah, God, why did they do it? And then Jerry and Johnny start talking to them, and Jerry's ex-wife worked at the Fortune Society. And then Johnny's good friend was a prison guard and knew Rob really well up at one of these prisons upstate. So our heads are just been spinning the last week because John's got stories about these. So it's crazy. Jerry's brother hung out with Black 47 and worked for Chris Burns in the police department. So this whole week, and even like the whole idea that I picked up this phone call last Saturday, which I never pick up phone calls. It's been a bizarre week. That's all I can say.
Well, don't forget 209-2950.
Kevin. Kevin, can you do me a favor? Can you tell these two guys where to go?
Get out there. Where's the ticket? Send me the ticket.
Where's the ticket? Grandpa, where's the tickets? Where's the tickets?
Come on, bring it on. All right, good to hear from you.
All right. As the strange story gets stranger and stranger, and I know people out there have to be going, you got to be kidding.
The Cuban boys on the air.
Yeah. BAI, you're on the air. BAI, you're on the air.
I can't afford it.
Well, that is the problem now, isn't it, man?
Can't afford Williamsburg anymore. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, look what they've done. They built these 40-story buildings and they destroyed the neighborhood over there.
But really, no, it's just horrible, you know. But that's what happens with the city. Anyway, thank you. It's been enlightening.
I like that.
WBAI, you're on the air. We're not talking about the movie.
Oh.
All right, BAI, you're on the air. Oh, the people are dropping out here. 212.
I know the answer to that is you take so long. The call gets disconnected.
Right. But we got a lot of phone calls. BAI, you're on the air.
You actually gave what I thought might have been a clue he could have pursued. And, yeah, well, why are you calling him like this? Why do you hate us? The Christian, maybe we talk like that. And someone said, you caused my wife to be fired. And I was wondering if that was true. But, Jerry and John, I wanted to know if you knew a friend of mine. You mentioned C Street and 9th. Marty Selleck was a...
Yes, he was a fireman in 18 truck. He got killed.
Away from the roof or building. And
Yeah, that was a very long time ago.
Yeah, that happened before he got on the job.
Yeah. Yeah, they still have the race. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Vincent, for calling in and checking in with the Cuba boys here. The number here is 212-209-2900.
Where are the great BAI hate? Where are
No,
the
everybody's in the state of shock. I'm telling you, they
Where is
can't.
this?
No, John, they love us. Majority of people love us.
Where is this?
All right, we're the haters. Come on. BAI, you're on the air. Yes. Oh, Tom. You ain't kidding. That's great to hear. That's always a good sign. Well, I don't know. I think Jerry's working on that at the moment. But
That's our next movie.
now, Tom, were you shocked to hear? Oh my God! Oh, I wish Grandpa was sitting here now. Oh my God, it would be so. And Tom, how are you doing these days? Right.
Yeah, and you did a song request.
Well, Tom, thanks for checking in here. You listen. Sometimes we go to Rockies over in Red Hook, you know. All right. I'll talk to you then. WBAI, you're on the air with the Cuba boy. Oh, Pat, did you ever think about these guys, Pat? What happened was, last Saturday's show, Elijah handed me the phone, and Jerry asked me to go to the Statue of Liberty with me. So I thought it was Jerry being strange. He sends me postcards. Now he wants me to go to the Statue. He goes, get tomorrow's Daily News. And when I read the news article, I go, now it all makes sense. And I called him up, and I had the privilege of going over to the Statue of Liberty with Jerry and his family, and it was a phenomenal day.
Well, John, also, I think it's the first time that you've ever been speechless. Because you called me right when you got off the boat on Tuesday. And I said, John, you got to tell me from the first to the start. And he says, I don't know where to start. I said, I don't know where I was. And then I say, well, why does he do it? He goes, I don't know.
I still don't know. I still don't know.
Yeah, I get.
No,
that's one of the 10 countries I want to go to. No, we want to go there, but yeah, we want to go there. Well, we've been to Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Oman, and United Arab Emirates. We've been all over. John's got the postcards.
Listen, I had the postcards, and my whole time was trying to figure out how did you orchestrate the postcard with the post stamp. And then it was all revealed to me this week, John. Oh, no, I thought you had your hand.
No, but one of the good, funny phone calls where we were laughing at my apartment was John McDonough says, after we tell you to go to Cuba and San, he goes, I had it with these guys. He goes, yeah, you know, wish he would jump off his out the window, but he lives in a basement apartment. Tell me where we live, John.
Yeah, he lives on the 46th floor over in Long Island City, has a penthouse overlooking the East River. So he wasn't living in his mother's basement in Williamsburg. I was a little bit off on that.
Yeah, you sure was.
By about 46 floors.
Yeah, but the reason why I called you last Saturday was I told Liza, I said, Liza, I got cancer. I don't have much time left. I would like to meet John and Sandy.
You didn't even tell me that, John. I mean, Jerry.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing is, I could have taken the message and just said, okay, hung up and told John, but I just gave it right to John. I said, here's John.
Well, didn't I tell you that I was sick with cancer?
But
that's why.
I didn't know the seriousness till I started talking to you on Saturday, and then I feel like now is we should have met 20 years ago. I mean, we know so many people, and even he was telling me his daughter was playing my daughter in softball at Our Lady of Hope, and the two of them were looking over at me and saying, here he is. And this is how close we came throughout life. One of my best friends growing up that I joined the Army with, Jerry worked with on the job, Tom Lozada. Listen, I told Elijah, I can't talk now. There's so many things going on, and how we never met, but we did meet. It was a strange thing. BAI, you're on the air. Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Thank you.
You know what? This is really not going nowhere.
Yeah.
They love us.
I mean, oh my
They love us.
Come on, Sandy, come outside and make a phone
You
call.
guys obviously didn't do a good enough job.
I know the program director's walking around here. You're gonna have your own show very shortly here.
You know what? If you had a conservative show on this station, it would bring in money.
No,
would,
you're
you're
probably
right.
right. BAI,
Right,
as the movie's going to say, BAI, you're on the air. You're on the air. Good. What's up? Come on. And what do you have to say? Right.
Over the years, the neighborhoods I lived in, from Brooklyn to Manhattan, I got to know the Irish very well. Went to school with them and everything. But some, just like all people, have good, bad, and the ugly. You get my drift?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Where are we? They're good.
Great people. And the Irish guys I got along with fairly well. But then what happened in the city was everybody moved out when certain people moved in. You know, and I would like to contact quite a few of them. And there's a fellow you just had on 5 minutes ago. Did you say his name was Tom Swift?
No, Tom Smart.
Well, Tom is an ex-cop.
Really hates us is George Galloway. Because Sandy was on. I was right at the Sandy. You remember that, Sandy?
Yeah.
And he said, "You toilet bowl cleaner." And I said, "Well, there's dignity in all work, George."
All right.
Oh, that one, yeah.
All reminiscing that's going on.
Had a guest, Jesse Mohammed, but they got disconnected. And they said, Jesse Mohammed's back online. So I goes, "Oh yeah, Jesse." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, you know, I changed my mind. I think Mamiya should be fried." And you know what? And I think that you should pack your bags and go to Cuba with all your commie friends. He goes, "That's not Jesse Mohammed."
All right, we have 10 minutes left with the Cuba boys. 212-209-2900. I know a lot of the phone calls have been dropping off because we haven't been picking up quite, but the phone calls have been so good. It really didn't go in a direction that I thought it was going to. People do get it, which I do like. Sometimes the
place, because that's like white and upper class, you know.
Oh, listen! I had enough of you and your white tour of the world. Okay.
Let loose.
Listen to the pros here. Listen to the pros.
Come on, folks.
Okay, go ahead.
Here.
Frank, I was calling from Connecticut to talk to the Cuba boys.
You'll see the video and the story about him going out to the Statue of Liberty and being honored out there. And I had the privilege of going with him. It's one of those events in my lifetime that I will never forget. WBAI, you're on the air. Yes, quickly. We only got a couple of minutes left.
A couple of minutes. So then, I changed the perspective of everything we're doing now in this country. After living for 5 years in Germany, from
I mean, like, oh, what the fangool? Hey, that's my Italian I picked up from your people in Williamsburg. All right, turn down the radio. It's a sad day when the Cuba boys have to tell you how to call in to a radio show. BAI, you're on the air.
that's when here it was 1:30 in the morning. They called to David Rothenberg and hung up. Then David Rothenberg said, "Hey, you're on the radio." And he just came on again and
Phone call. Which was always, hey, go to Cuba. All right, you're the last phone call. A text that came in. Jen Enright, the chairman of the National Irish Freedom Committee, wants to invite the Cuba boys to the Michael Flannery dinner dance up in Rory Dolan's on October 13th. Well, I'll give you more
Let me
information.
tell you, I used to shovel his walk because I grew up in Jackson Heights.
Oh, Michael Flannery.
Yeah, but
That's unbelievable.
Oh my
I knew
God.
him. In fact, he used to buy chances for me for the school.
I used to go to his house to pick him up because he didn't drive, Michael,
Yeah,
and
right.
bring him to meetings and stuff.
But I used to shovel his walk when I was a kid.
Well, we got one thing to say. John, can you tell them what the author is if they don't like our country?
As usual, one-way ticket to Cuba. Don't come back. Stay there. Goodbye.
And
Good
we'll
luck.
pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, this to me was a very interesting show, and I have to thank Janet Coleman and Chris.
Janet Coleman?
Yeah, well, Janet made it, and she went in and made the pitch to the program director because I just knew we had something here because when I read
I was
the
a little
article.
nervous we wouldn't fill the 2 hours. When
Oh
I
my God!
Oh, you kidding me?
You could have had another 2 hours now, John.
Oh my God! And thanks everyone for calling in. The phone calls really made it today. You heard Jerry's life story from Montreal to Williamsburg to the basement of the North Tower in the on 9/11, and to today traveling around the world. And I don't know. I thought the phone calls were great. I thank BAI because it's only on a station like BAI you can have shows like that. And I thank everyone. Eliza, what are we going out with?
I picked a song by Christy Moore about El Salvador.
Oh, jeez, thanks for coming up, man. Good God, the phone calls.
I was on the radio.
But,
Awesome. Now,
John, I'll be right back. I gotta go to the restroom.
yeah.